how to use their abs. Because the first thing that happens is they bellow their rib cage out because they're trying to get their shoulder back by breaking here in the middle of their back in this process. How we do this is ask somebody to relax their abs, and we poke them in the belly button. And you tell them to lift that belly button up. There's a difference between bracing and tension. This is where I get to stand on the next soapbox. Okay. How many people here lift? Cool. Good. How many people here do yoga or stretching? Okay. How many people here just got put on their armor and go? Okay. I have a feeling that yours starts with your grace.
But I used to do all that stuff.
Yeah, you move like somebody that learned how to snap an armor too.
I'm 57. I used to do all that stuff. I used to do all the weightlifting.
You have an interesting background. However, in this process, when we powerlifting is great for raw strength. It's terrible for SCA fighting. Because one of the big things we do in lifting, straight up, is one, it's not dynamic motion. And two, we learn how to brace, because we learn how to brace our spine before we lift a lot of weight up off the ground. Which means, when we're bracing, by the way, your arms bow out. They become harder and stiffer. It's like you're making a natural weight belt around yourself and around your girdles. When I talk about braced muscles don't want to move. Braced muscles are built to protect you. Tension in your muscles, the reason why I asked about yoga, stretching, everything else like that. In yoga, we hold poses and everything else like that, and we find tension in our muscles, and there's a lot of motion in that. You go from one position to another while still having to figure out balance and everything else like that, which means you learn how to put tension in your muscles to create balance so you can sit there and do real dumb shit and make yourself super sore when you're like, why is this little itty-bitty woman making me hate my life? So I do a big combination of both because one, I like to be able to lift heavy things. It's an ego boost. It's great. I like being able to look at my guys and be like, I'm sorry, you cannot deadlift what I can. It's great for my ego. However, I do a shit ton of flexing, stretching, kettlebell, and mace bell work because it's three-plane dynamic motion. It also means I can't brace. And bracing is a very common thing in fighting. This is where we see this is taught to a lot of smaller fighters. This is where I'm going to talk about being a teacher for the next generation. A lot of smaller fighters or upper body weak fighters are taught when you just clamp down and you swing because then you're moving your body. This is braced muscle. This does them no good because where the bracing stops is where the injury starts. Typically, shoulder and elbow. So again, you're going to hear me harping on this because I believe these are expensive joints. Really expensive joints, actually. So where the bracing stops, the injury starts. Lower back, knee, elbow, shoulder. And so how you can see when somebody is braced is ask them to take a breath. They will breathe from the top of their lungs. They do not expand their rib cage. Can everybody actually breathe through their diaphragm here?
Only if I think about it.
Okay.
Only if I think about it.
So
if I don't, I breathe through my chest.
So
I lift a lot.
Yeah, and you stand braced naturally. Like watching you sit and watching you stand, you're braced almost all the time. And so this is something that we're going to talk about everyday life. What we do in everyday life mimics our fighting. So I'm betting that you throw pretty hard straight lines.
Yeah.
Like you hit like a truck.
If I'm fast enough to hit.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah. And that's because you're always fighting the tension in your muscles. You're always fighting that braced, like tension in your muscles where you have to release it and then throw. Versus when we have tension in our muscles, we can just fire. We're supporting the joints. We're supporting the body. So, one of the things I'm going to tell all of you guys to do is go to YouTube. How do I breathe through my diaphragm? And go through that PT. It's actual PT. Just do it. Learn how to breathe through your diaphragm when you're making coffee in the morning, when you're sitting at your desk. I guarantee you can't breathe through your diaphragm when you're hunched over and working on whatever project you have for work, looking like a cooked fucking shrimp. What was that? I mean, I have a standing desk and or a pace.
I'm pushing things on the front.
Okay, you can probably be fine.
You probably
I know we need more bracing. So, but this is the thing, is what we practice in our day-to-day lives shows up. When you're reaching for your coffee cup, does your shoulder fall forward? Or do you actually reach with your shoulder backing down into the socket? When you're walking down the hallway, does your heel hit first or your toe hit first? Mid-foot. We're gonna talk about walking a bunch today, by the way, and how most of us do it wrong. So, but in this exercise shows a lot and will give you the tells of where your students are bracing their body. And typically it's the bottom of the rib cage and the lower back. Because as soon as they do this, and they don't have the flexibility in their shoulder, and they don't know how to actually have this joint move, you will watch them kick their rib cage forward. To get this, and now they're gonna grab their abs real hard. So your abs are gonna like, cool, they're showing off like they're flexing for the internet. You actually need to take your hands and ask them to relax. So you've got to do this. You're gonna get to teach how to do this, by the way. Because teaching is the best way to memorize shit. Once this is braced, ask them to throw away their fork. I say that you'll watch them kind of go neutral, and ask them to lift their belly button up and in. And you can actually see the difference in my rib cage. I can now move my rib cage across. There's plenty of tension here. I can hit somebody real hard. You can feel the side of my body actually has tension in it, but I'm not braced. I don't feel like I'm poking a brick. Like, nobody needs hard muscle when they're fighting, because then you just have to undo the hard muscle to go through. Questions? Because this is relatively like deep into like weird bullshit.
I actually just have an alternate visualization that might help. This is from my dance background.
Okay.
That when you're trying to get that good posture that's not super stiff like we're talking about, to think about a cord pulling you up all the way through the center of your body and then to let everything else dangle from there.
The only problem we have with that in fighters, by the way, and so to add this, yes, I love that analogy, and I actually use that I use that a lot with teaching people just to kind of like learn how to stand, is make sure they don't dangle their shoulders. Because you want to hold your shoulders in good posture. You don't want to throw away and dangle their shoulders, because that's what will develop injury again. Yeah. And so when teaching that in fighters, use that analogy, but make sure they bring their shoulders in good position, and they have tension through their shoulders also.
How does this interact with like putting on armor? Because at least for me, when I put on armor, I find like my posture is just going to completely change because I've got like weight on me and my hips are going to be in different positions and stuff.
Well, I wear my armor around the house while I'm making my coffee, so I know how it feels.
Okay, so you'd recommend just like wearing your armor to make your coffee?
Actually, no joke. So you're up next. So
I'm good.
But
Compound on what you say. When I get a new fighter in this hat, I get used to it. I clean the house.
yeah,
I wear it all the time.
yeah, and that's the thing is, if you're not comfortable in your armor, if your posture changes when you get in armor, start by literally just putting on your underpinnings and doing something. Cool, I need to go clean the house. I'm gonna put my underpads on. It's a different feel, because a lot of that's a lot tighter than what we wear clothing-wise. You know, a lot of us wear pads, everything else like that. Put on your knee pads. Learn how to move and walk in your knee pads, because it's different. It touches you. Like, you're like, what the fuck is this? So then add the next piece. Add the next piece. Put part of your rig on to go out and do the pelt. If you find you're throwing shots differently in your arm harness than on your pelt, put your arm harness on to go hit the pelt. And see, am I throwing differently? Because my gear doesn't fit me right. This is the big key on this one. If you're out and you put on your rig and you find that you're fighting completely differently than what you're taught when you're out there and you feel like really good about your mechanics, you put your armor on, you're like, man, I can't move worth shit. It might be time to work your armor and do this. I own 19 shields. 19 of those damn things. Because I would make one, I'd fight for 6 weeks with it and be like, don't like the balance. And I'd go make a new one to play with the balance. And where does my hand need to be in the box? Where does this need to go? Everything, I made them out of scrap plywood. I like scrounged like a little rat to get the fucking materials to do this. But that's one of the best things that Helga taught me as a square. Fuck fighting your gear, fix it. Your handle don't work in your stick, cut a new handle. You're worried about cutting a handle in your stick? Oh, fuck, I don't want to waste this one piece of rattan I have. Go to your practice and ask everybody for their dead sticks. Cut their handle off, guaranteed that piece of rattan right above their handle is probably still good. Practice cutting handles and dead sticks until you get it down and you feel comfortable cutting a good piece of rattan. Because I also understand this is a super expensive sport. This is not a cheap sport. A piece of rattan right now is almost $20 a stick. It's stupid. Use the excess gear that other people are willing to throw away to learn how to make the gear you want. And you'll find that when you do that once, everybody in your practice is like, pump the brakes. What are you doing, little buddy? Well, I'm gonna go practice. I'm gonna go play. until I figure out this one thing. If you've got 4 or 5 fighters in your practice and you're all poor as shit, that was this bitch one coming up. We literally all went and got cans and then bought a sheet of plywood so we could figure out, and we all cut a different shield and we changed shields every 2 practices until we were just like, oh, this shield works for this person likes this shield. Guess we're saving up to buy this because those other 4 shields, no. those can go in the burn pile. We'll drink a beer while they go away. But the thing is, figure out how to help your fellow fighter by playing, and sometimes, like, it's a very real thing. We're in an economy that is super screwed. Like, all of us are gonna have, we may not have the ability to buy stuff to continue playing. The cool thing is, the people that are in our upper echelon want new fighters. We must teach our new fighters it's okay to ask for gear. It's okay to play. It's okay to say, hey, can I have your dead stick so I can learn how to cut a handle? No, I don't need that new piece of rattan because right now I'm just learning. And I guarantee those dukes, those counts, all those upper end knights are gonna be like, fuck, I've got like 16 shields sitting in my garage because I was at this point and I hoarded this shit waiting for somebody to ask. But a lot of them are waiting to be asked. We're in an ask culture, not a tell culture. All of us are shy, neurodivergent idiots that at some point been rejected in our life, so we don't know how to offer things. We wait for people to come to us, and then we kind of look at our feet. And it's nuts. The amount of help in the SCA once you ask, once you're bold enough to ask, they'll bend the world for you to be on the field.
SCA stands for socially challenged and awkward.